Have you ever had that quiet, uneasy feeling in your gut? The kind that whispers something isn't right, but you just couldn't quite explain why? Maybe it's the way your children speak to you these days. Not with sharp words or outright rudeness, but with a certain tone, a certain impatience. Maybe they make little comments that leave you second-guessing yourself. Or perhaps it's their silence, their absence, their disregard that stings the most. You're not imagining things. And no, you're not being too sensitive. You're noticing something very real, even if it's not loud or obvious. Disrespect, especially from the people you've raised, the ones you've given your love and your life to, it doesn't always come wrapped in cruelty. More often, it hides behind smiles, jokes, and habits that have quietly become your new normal. And over time, if you're not careful, you start to believe that maybe this is just how things are now. But it's not. And you deserve better. A wise person once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." Sometimes the way others treat you, especially your own children, has less to do with who you are and more to do with what they can't face within themselves. Their impatience, their coldness, their dismissiveness, those are reflections of their own inner struggles. But here's the part we often forget. You are not here to carry those burdens. And you are certainly not here to excuse being treated poorly just because someone else refuses to grow up emotionally. So let's talk about this. Let's have a real conversation, heart to heart. Because the older we get, the more important it becomes to protect our peace, our self-respect, and our emotional space. You've given enough. You've tolerated enough. Now it's time to see things clearly, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with calm awareness. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been speaking to your child, telling a story, sharing a memory, trying to explain something important, and they cut you off mid-sentence? They didn't mean to be rude, they'd say. They just got excited. But somehow, it keeps happening. You barely finish your thought before they jump in, and over time, without realizing it, you find yourself speaking less, holding back, feeling like your words don't carry the same weight anymore. This is one of the most subtle, yet damaging signs of disrespect. When someone consistently interrupts you, they're sending a message, even if they don't say it outright. What I have to say matters more. And while it might seem small, it chips away at your voice, your confidence, your presence in the conversation. You begin to wonder if you're just rambling. You start apologizing for talking too much, when really, you were never heard to begin with. Respect looks like patience. It looks like presence. It looks like letting you finish your sentence, even if they already know where it's going. Especially then. And what about when you share something you're proud of? Maybe you started walking every morning. Maybe you cooked something new. Maybe you even figured out how to do something on your phone that used to confuse you. These might seem like little things, but they're not. They're victories. So you share them, expecting a smile, "That's great, Mom," or "Good for you, Dad." But instead, what you get is silence. Or worse, a half laugh and a change of subject. It hurts, doesn't it? Because when someone constantly fails to acknowledge your wins, no matter how small, they're telling you that your growth doesn't matter to them, that your joy is not worth celebrating. And sometimes that comes from their own insecurities. It's often true that what irritates us about others can reveal something deeper within ourselves. When your success, your independence, or even your small progress irritates your child, it may be because it shines a light on their own stagnation. And rather than face that, they minimize you. That's not your burden to carry. Now let's talk about humor. Have you ever been the butt of the joke? You ask a question and your child responds with sarcasm. You finally figured that out? Wow, you remembered something. Then they laugh, shake their head and say, "Come on, I'm just joking. Don't be so sensitive. It's meant to be playful," they say. But inside, You feel a sting. You feel small. You feel mocked. Here's the truth. A joke is only funny when both people are laughing. When your child uses humor to put you down, even subtly, and then hides behind the shield of just joking, they are avoiding accountability. And when you call them out, they make you feel guilty for reacting. This isn't harmless. This is emotional manipulation. And it's another form of disrespect that often flies under the radar, especially in families. You are allowed to say, "That hurt my feelings." You are allowed to say, "That wasn't funny to me." You are allowed to set the tone for how you want to be treated. And if someone truly respects you, they'll hear you. They'll adjust. They'll care. But sometimes they don't. And that brings us to one of the most important truths of all. The way someone responds when you set a boundary tells you everything about how they truly feel about you. If your child reacts with guilt tripping, "Wow, I guess you don't care about me anymore," or plays the victim, "I can't believe you're making such a big deal out of this," they're not honoring your needs. They're trying to control you with emotion. And when that happens, it's not love. It's not care. It's control disguised as connection. Think about a time you told your child, "I'm not comfortable talking about that," or "I need some space." Did they respect that? Or did they push back, keep digging, keep calling, keep demanding? Disrespect isn't just about what people do. It's about what they refuse to stop doing when you ask them to. You've spent your life making space for others. Now it's time to make space for yourself. You see, people who truly respect you won't be offended by your boundaries. They'll welcome them. They'll understand that your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being are valuable. Only those who benefited from your silence, your self-sacrifice, your tendency to always say yes, will feel upset when you finally say no. But that doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're growing. And that is a beautiful thing. Because the moment you decide to no longer tolerate subtle disrespect, whether it comes through sarcasm, silence, or guilt, you begin to reclaim something powerful, your self-respect. You teach others how to treat you not by what you demand, but by what you allow. And when you stop allowing disrespect, everything changes. You don't have to fight. You don't have to shout. You simply begin to carry yourself differently. You stop explaining your worth. You stop overgiving to those who underappreciate. You stop bending so much just to keep the peace. And ironically, that's when people start to notice. That's when they begin to step up or fall away. And both outcomes are a blessing. Let's keep going. There's something even deeper to understand about this pattern. Why some people, including our own children, struggle to offer the respect we deserve. It's not always about cruelty or intent. Sometimes it's about projection. There's a powerful idea known as the shadow, parts of ourselves we can't or won't accept, so we see them in others instead. When a child constantly interrupts you, maybe they feel unheard in their own life. When they downplay your achievements, it might be because they feel like they're falling short in their own goals. And when they mock your boundaries or belittle your choices, deep down, they may resent that you have the courage to say no, because they haven't learned how to do that for themselves. Their disrespect, as painful as it is, often has more to do with their own inner chaos than with your worth. But here's where many of us get stuck. We internalize that chaos. We start thinking, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I am being difficult. Maybe I just need to accept this stage of life and not expect so much. And slowly, we lose ourselves in the process. But here's the truth that changes everything. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. And it's never too late to raise the standard. Imagine this for a moment. What would it feel like to no longer flinch when someone dismisses you? What would it feel like to speak with calm, quiet confidence, knowing that your words matter? Whether or not anyone else listens? That's not just a dream. It's a choice. and it begins the moment you start responding to disrespect in a new way. Let's talk about that. Because once you recognize disrespect, the next step is learning how to handle it. Not with anger, not with arguments, but with clarity, strength, and self-respect. There are 3 powerful ways to respond when someone crosses a line, and it doesn't matter if that person is your child, your sibling, or a lifelong friend. The first, and sometimes the most powerful, is silence. That might sound strange, but not all silence is weakness. Sometimes silence is strength. It's a way of saying, I see what you did, and I will not give it my energy. You don't beg for respect. You don't try to change their mind. You simply stop over-explaining. You pull back your energy. You stop rushing to answer every text, to defend every decision, to prove your worth. And in that stillness, something shifts. The person who truly cares will notice. They'll feel the difference. They'll step forward and adjust. The person who doesn't, they'll pull away and show you who they really are. Silence exposes the truth faster than any argument ever could. But sometimes, silence isn't enough. There are moments when you need to speak, not to fight, but to draw a line. That's where the second response comes in: verbal boundaries. And here's the key: boundaries are not threats. They're standards. They're calm, clear, and unapologetic. If your child interrupts you, you can say, I wasn't finished. Please let me complete my thought. If they make a sarcastic remark at your expense, I don't find that funny. Let's keep it respectful. If they continue to ignore your limits, I've asked you not to do that. If it happens again, I'll need to take a step back. Notice the tone here. There's no yelling, no defensiveness, just quiet strength. And that's exactly what earns respect. Not begging, not pleasing, not giving in, but standing firm with dignity. You may feel nervous the first time you speak this way. That's normal, especially if you've spent years trying to keep the peace. But something beautiful happens when you choose truth over comfort. You begin to feel at peace with yourself. And that peace is more powerful than approval. Now, what if none of this works? What if, despite your silence, your honesty, your efforts, the person continues to disrespect you? That's when we move to the third response: distance. I know this is hard, especially when it's your own child. But sometimes, the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and even for them, is walk away with grace. Not to punish, not to shame, but to protect your peace and reinforce your worth. Walking away doesn't always mean cutting people off. It can be as simple as stepping back emotionally, choosing not to share everything, deciding not to attend every argument you're invited to, creating more time and space for the people who do treat you with kindness and care. Remember, your presence is a gift. Your time, your wisdom, your energy, they're valuable. And if someone repeatedly shows you that they don't honor those things, you have every right to withdraw them. Someone once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That applies here too. If you don't become aware of the patterns of disrespect in your life, you'll keep experiencing them and call it just how family is. But the moment you see it for what it is, you gain power. You become the author of your own peace. And here's something most people don't realize. People are constantly testing you. Not in an evil or manipulative way, but in small, subtle ways. They're watching how you respond. Do you flinch? Do you fold? Do you over-explain or apologize for simply having boundaries? Each response teaches them what's acceptable. So if you want respect, the first person you have to teach is yourself. Ask yourself, do I speak to myself kindly? Do I hold myself to a high standard? Do I honor my own needs? Or do I put them last just to avoid making waves? The way you treat yourself sets the tone for everything else. Because respect isn't something you demand. It's something you radiate. When you carry yourself with quiet confidence, when you stop chasing approval, when you move with peace instead of people-pleasing, the world around you begins to shift. Some people will rise to meet you. Others will fall away. Both are gifts. And as hard as it might be to admit, some people only stayed close because you allowed yourself to be disrespected. The moment that version of you disappears, they no longer feel comfortable. Not because you did something wrong, but because you finally did something right. So don't be afraid of losing people who never really saw you. Don't be afraid of speaking truthfully, living honestly, and loving yourself deeply. Because the people who are meant to walk with you on this journey, the people who see you, hear you, and respect you, will never be offended by your boundaries. They will honor them, gladly, lovingly, because they understand that mutual respect is the foundation of real connection. And when you start living from that place, everything feels lighter. You don't walk on eggshells. You don't feel the need to shrink or prove. You simply show up, fully, freely, and without apology. Let's keep going. There's one more layer to uncover, and it's the one that changes everything. Not just how others treat you, but how you begin to treat yourself. You see, respect isn't just something you receive. It's something you embody. It's in how you carry yourself, how you walk into a room, how you speak your truth, even when your voice trembles. It's in the way you say no without guilt, and yes without fear. It's in your posture, your tone, your silence, and your choices. Some people think respect is something you earn through success, by being useful, or by making others proud. But true respect starts long before that. It begins the moment you decide that your feelings, your time, and your peace matter, even when no one else says so. Especially then. It's often said that people project what they believe about themselves onto the world. So if deep down you believe you don't matter, you'll attract people who confirm that belief. If you believe you're not worth listening to, you'll notice people talk over you. If you believe you're too much, too sensitive, too demanding, you'll accept crumbs and call it kindness. But what happens when you shift those beliefs? What happens when you begin to truly believe, deep in your bones, that you are worthy? Not because of what you've done or how much you've given, but simply because you are. That shift changes everything. Suddenly the sarcasm doesn't land. The guilt trips don't work. The silence, the dismissal, the manipulation, it all falls flat. Because your sense of self-worth no longer depends on how someone else behaves. That's the real breakthrough. People may still test you. They may still try to guilt you or push you back into the version of yourself they were more comfortable with. The one who never said no. The one who stayed silent. The one who tolerated the jokes and the jabs. But you'll see it differently now. You'll see it for what it is, a reflection of their limitations, not your value. And when that moment comes, and it will, you won't feel the need to argue or prove anything. You'll simply choose yourself. With grace, with quiet strength, with peace. One of the clearest signs of self-respect is the ability to walk away without anger. You don't slam the door. You don't make a scene. You just stop showing up for roles you've outgrown. You stop entertaining conversations that drain you. You stop allowing people to treat you like a convenience. And here's the beautiful part. When you remove the people who disrespect you, you make space for the ones who don't. You open the door to healthier, more honest, more respectful connections. Friends who listen when you speak. Family members who don't just call when they need something. People who celebrate your wins, big or small. People who ask how you are and truly mean it. You deserve that kind of community. No matter your age, no matter your history, no matter how long you've accepted less. It's never too late to set a new standard. There's a phrase that says, when you change, people around you change. It's true. Some will adjust, some will resist, and some will walk away. But the ones who remain, The ones who rise with you, those are your people. And they will love the version of you that no longer shrinks to keep the peace. Now let's take a moment to get really honest with ourselves. Ask yourself, where in my life have I been accepting less than I deserve? Where have I silenced my voice, not to keep the peace, but out of fear of being rejected or labeled difficult? What have I normalized that's actually harming me, emotionally, mentally, spiritually? These aren't easy questions, but they're powerful. And the answers might be uncomfortable at first. But that discomfort, that's growth. That's the first breath of a new chapter, one where you no longer bend to fit into someone else's comfort zone. So if you've been wondering whether your child truly respects you, pay attention. Not to their words, but to their patterns. Do they listen without interrupting? Do they acknowledge your boundaries or try to push past them? Do they support your growth or minimize your progress? Do they speak to you with kindness, even when they disagree? These are not small things. They are the foundation of healthy relationships, and you have every right to expect them. Not because you're demanding, but because you're human. And here's something I hope you never forget. Love and respect are not the same. Love can be present, but still be selfish, conditional, or careless. Respect, on the other hand, is the soil that allows love to grow. Without it, love becomes hollow. Without it, connection becomes obligation. Without it, relationships become one-sided. You can love someone deeply and still need distance. You can care for someone and still say, I won't be spoken to like that. You can forgive someone and still protect your peace. Those things aren't contradictions. They're boundaries. And boundaries are a form of love, both for others and for yourself. It's been said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. So I invite you today to look inward. Awaken to your worth. Awaken to your power. Awaken to the truth that you are no longer required to earn respect. You only need to stop tolerating its absence. And if your children, or anyone in your life, cannot meet you in that place of mutual honor, then perhaps it's time to stop chasing and start choosing. Because here's the truth. The moment you stop explaining your worth to people who never cared to understand it, you become free. Free to speak. Free to rest. Free to live without tiptoeing around disrespect. And that freedom? That's what real self-respect feels like. So if this message speaks to something deep inside you, I hope you take it to heart. You are not alone. You are not too much. You are not being dramatic. You are simply waking up to the truth of who you are. And that truth is powerful beyond words. You've spent a lifetime caring for others. Now it's your time. Time to care for your peace. Time to protect your energy. Time to create space for the kind of respect that doesn't need to be begged for, because it's given freely from people who truly see you. And if you're ready for that shift, say it with me. I will no longer tolerate disrespect. I choose self-respect today. Leave a comment below if this message spoke to you. I'd love to hear your story. And if you found value in this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear it too. Because the more we speak about self-worth, the more we help others rise into their own. You deserve a life filled with peace, dignity, and mutual respect. At any age. And that journey begins right now, with you. Here's to standing tall, loving fully, and never shrinking again.